Gandler, VideoInk. We are a publication that covers everything happening in the online video space. So we'll cover a lot of what's happening in OTT and across the ecosystem of Netflix and Hulu and HBO Go and YouTube and anything that's happening with streaming video. We're covering that. We do events and white papers, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm really excited to be talking with you guys on what the future of OTT looks like. It's obviously a moment of high disruption, and there's a lot of activity, a lot of investment, a lot of movement happening here. So I think we'll have some good insights to share. I'm going to ask you guys to each just run down the line and just do a quick introduction of yourselves and your vantage point on this space and how you're kind of seeing OTT and where your business fits into that, and then we'll dive into the tough stuff.
My name is Mark Cavicchia. I'm the founder and Chief Digital Officer of WhereverTV. And we are focused mainly on linear live television from around the world. I actually started the company back in 2007. Initially, we just went out and aggregated a lot of free content. Now we've moved, a few years ago, we moved into the subscription service business. We now have packages that are focused on Arabic languages, Italian, French, Moroccan. We're starting a U.S. service as well, and we'll expand on that later this year when we're going to launch a service of about 70, 75, 80 channels.
Excuse me, I'm recovering from a cold. My name is David Gandler. I am co-founder and CEO of fuboTV, which is also a linear OTT service that's dedicated to sports. It's one of the first services of its kind. We currently carry about 2,000 live matches. We went live on January 8th and carry about 7 channels right now and expanding to Latin America this summer.
My name is Rob Kligman. I oversee the sales and strategy for World Wrestling Entertainment. Yes, that's the Hulk Hogan's of the world. Our largest initiative to date is OTT. We actually launched this about a year ago with a linear and a VOD system to broadcast all of our archives as well as live pay-per-views as well as original programming. So it's one of our biggest initiatives of the year, and we continue to grow that number.
Brian Lisi, founder, CEO of Qello. We are an SVOD OTT network. Currently, we have Qello Concerts, which is the largest concert films and music documentary service out there. We're in over 160 countries, have over 4,000 films, and we just recently launched a new preschool called Q Kids, which is all OTT across all the platforms as well.
Great. I want to start with you, Rob, actually, because WWE has been very active in this expansion and obviously embracing online distribution. So when you guys were ideating your business model around that, how did you really look at taking your archive content and just streaming that or making that available for VOD versus maybe windowing on linear first and then making it available in real time later or simulcasting? I mean, what did that look like for you guys from the outset?
So the business model was always to start with a linear and a VOD model, very different from the Netflixes of the world and anyone else who had launched at the time that we launched. The idea, we had such a huge treasure trove of content, of archived content, so we knew over a slow period of time we could constantly, slowly drop that into the viewer's opportunity to watch. At the same time, we also have a huge asset where we actually broadcast 12 different pay-per-views throughout the entire year, one being the largest, the Super Bowl of entertainment, being WrestleMania. We used to take that to a pay-per-view model, which sort of Vince McMahon, our chairman, is somewhat known for in terms of creating that pay-per-view direct-to-consumer type opportunity to watch. So we knew we had live programming and the opportunity to gain a great pay proposition by bringing them in, knowing that they would get a great proposition in terms of getting the pay-per-views. But at the same time, there's so much archive, and our brand is so generational. And I think that's the key to anything, is we have so many different generations that are looking at our archived content, whether it be the father that has the memory when he was a 7-year-old person to the point of now he's bringing his child up and actually being able to showcase what he had watched at that time and how it relates to what we're creating from an original programming standpoint. So to answer your question, we knew that the generations were there, we knew the archived content was there, but at the same time, we were always thinking of creating original content. And then at the same time, we always had pay-per-views that was sort of that ability to lean on what we knew made money and what we knew would bring in sort of that subscription model.
And so when you guys are obviously a lot of the content that all of you guys are addressing is going to be on the live side. There's an opportunity for a live streaming side of the business. What are you? I mean, I'll start here, but then I would be interested in hearing, kind of down the line what you guys are seeing. But what are you seeing in terms of audience behavior around being willing to watch content live and wanting to have that experience still versus being okay with maybe seeing it in a VOD environment a day later, or because I know that sports and music and concerts and all of this live content is kind of what's holding the cable business together. So where do you see that? I think
I'll start off quickly. Sports is DVR proof, so we fit into a nice bucket when it comes to that. But at the same time, we're seeing about 90% of our viewership actually go to the VOD. It might be just a generation of what we're looking at, but we're a little bit different from our programming. We're a scripted entertainment show, which you can get live. It's not on repeats on Mondays on USA Network, but at the same time, you can come in at any point in time and really watch and grasp all of our content on a VOD. So we're actually seeing the trend lean towards really the viewership on a VOD perspective.
David, what do you guys see on that side with Fubo, and then also your background with Drama Fever, kind of?
Yeah, so my background is actually video on demand. If you were here earlier, one of Sim's companies is Drama Fever. And that was recently acquired by SoftBank last year, October 31st. What we started with at fuboTV was really a VOD model. We tried to take sports and, see if folks would watch that. But what we've learned very quickly, obviously live is what people want. However, that's sort of the icebreaker. Once they know you have live, they're very interested in watching on-demand content. For us, I can't say it's 90%, but I would say that it's a very important piece of the business, and roughly about 30% of our audience currently does watch games on demand. But those games are usually within a 2-week period unless it's some type of classic matchup that's that's going to happen over the weekend, like a Barcelona versus Real Madrid. You'll see folks want to watch like 10 years of archive before that matchup. So that's kind of what we see.
I think there's a concept actually that live content has an expiration date. So how do you guys maintain that authenticity even after the content is no longer evergreen? Is there a way to splice your content out? Music, I think maybe perpetually, but it seems like on the live sports side that could be difficult.
Yeah, on the music side, we Live just started becoming more important to our business model. Similar to the WWE, we had a huge catalog of a couple of thousand films, which back in 2006 did almost $2 billion in DVD revenue. Last month, I think it was like $1. So that addressable market was still out there for VOD, and now if you don't have long tail rights and you're not able to monetize it past 30 days, which rights management is a whole nother thing, it's not worth the upfront investment. I always kind of say if YouTube had a hard time making money on live, someone like us, a small, nimble company, would struggle with it. But I think now it's becoming more ubiquitous. If someone goes home and watches Coachella at 11 o'clock at night, few people will, but if they can go later on and watch it down the road, they're always going to want it. So.
And we're talking obviously about the future of OTT. And I feel that a common thread that we're hearing a lot about is the consistency of viewing across mobile. So when we're looking at mobile, for you guys, when you're thinking about your programming strategy and distribution strategy, should every company have an app? Will the Samsungs of the world end up being the winners in this, that are kind of aggregating content together and then creating an app inside of their devices and streaming it that direction? I think we should start with you, Brian, and then.
Yeah, basically, I actually wrote a patent about 11 years ago, and it's focused on exactly what you're talking about, which is aggregation of content from various sources into one guide. So I kind of saw that a long time ago. But in terms of what's happening now, from a user's experience, I don't think they want to, at least I don't personally want to go in and out of 15 different apps to put together my viewing experience. So I think that mobile is something that we've seen a very recent fast growth. Mobile was very small as far as our consumption up until about 2 years ago. Now it's roughly 25% of our viewership, and I expect that number to continue growing. So absolutely, we see that as being a huge piece of what's going to be going forward.
And is that entry point because they're coming direct to your content? Are they finding it through social? Are they, is it because you guys have distribution relationships and that's organically being found through mobile? What's the entry point there?
Yeah, a lot of it's been organic, and then we have people that through social have told other people or have liked pages or liked different channels within our platform, and then it's attracted other people. So it's been purely, I won't say purely, but the majority of it's been organic or referrals from people that have come in, and we have a pretty good retention base of people once they come in and start watching the live programming. So unlike some of the other content, we have a lot of news and other things that are real time, and people want to watch that every day. So there are certain periods of the day we see spikes in traffic. There are also times where there are breaking events or things that might happen, tragedies or very good things around the world, and we'll see spikes, in specific places on specific channels.
And you're saying that most of that traffic is then organically growing through the social lift or the social sharing that's
Correct.
happening around that news, and you guys are positioned inside of that.
That's correct, yes.
So on from the Fubo side or from the WWE side, what are you guys seeing in terms of the mobile traffic, and like how are people discovering that content? I feel like that's a big problem that any creator that's distributing their content online is facing right now, is the discovery and entry point.
Yeah, well, although we're a sports company, we're actually dedicated to soccer for many reasons. One, it's obviously the largest sport in the world. And from a social perspective, the reason I say that is because 7 of the top 10 athletes in the world on social are Cristiano Ronaldo, Messi, soccer players. So for us, the cost per subscriber is really low because folks are already talking about it, and there's very few places where you can get legal streaming online. So for us, it's not much of a problem. Mobile is roughly about 50% of our business right now, and just based on viewing habits, at my former company, VOD, we averaged roughly about 15 to 20 minutes, and that was considered great engagement. Right now, for sports entertainment, we're roughly at about 36 minutes on a phone and a tablet. So it's pretty amazing where mobile is coming to.
And for us, we're extremely platform agnostic. You'll find us everywhere. And that's the idea, is to drive content and get the content to the audience where they are, and when they want it. So what we've seen is, because we're generational, certain audiences are going to watch TV through USA Network, but then again, we're having a great success rate here with an 18 to 24, 18 to 34-year-old demographic that are actually accessing our DTC, which we're trying to call it more than OTT because it's really direct to consumer, through gaming devices. So it's interesting to see the trends of whether people are going through Roku or Apple TV or a gaming device to actually attain that content.
So we see mobile as the #1 origination of subscribers, but the overall consumption is heavily weighted on like Apple TV, Roku, and now PlayStation is doing really, really well in Europe. But it also depends on your content, and we really struggled early on because we are long form, and how do you actually curate content for a mobile experience? Because I always say the attention span of a person today is less than a goldfish, and a goldfish is 6 seconds. So literally your bite-sized content and curation and UI on mobile is now becoming completely different than the Apple TV, whereby a year ago you'd have full continuity on all your apps, and now that's like changing rapidly.
And so where's the money? Where's the money coming from? I mean, I know we have thrown out a few of the acronyms, SVOD and AVOD, and so where's that money going to come from? Is the future going to be really heavily focused on subscription? I mean, pay-per-view has been huge in the cable business for both sports and I guess wrestling is a sport. Sorry, but in the music side as well. I just wonder what's going to be the real tipping point for the big dollars. Is it transactional? Is it going to continue advertising? Is it subscription?
I mean, we're all about subscription, and we firmly believe that you need subscription to have longevity. I think it's historical in every type of medium, and we have not wavered from that. When we first started, no one thought who would ever go spend a couple bucks to watch concerts, and we've proven that out. And I wish I had some of the problems like WWE have with Hulk Hogan being my brand consumer mindshare, but I think if you are able to acquire a customer for $1 and make $1.20, you have a business. And that's what we believe in.
From our standpoint, we launched about a year ago, and we had about 97% growth. So we're at 1.3 million subscribers right now, paying approximately $10 a month. It's a pretty hefty sum from a subscription model to kind of prove that model does work. We've pretty much gone away from the whole pay-per-view closed-circuit television model and have gone to the network, as that's the real proposition for you to sign up. From an ad model, we haven't reached critical mass. 1.3 million, when you compare it to a television viewership, is still extremely small. So although we're sort of stepping into the ad model, it's not powerful enough to go ad model only. So for us, we still think we're successful in doing the subscription.
Yeah, I mean, the gentlemen are correct. Subscription is critical. But for us, you hear a lot about freemium models where you have some portion of the content that's windowed for free viewing, and then you hear about premium access for subscription. In the position that we're in today, we're kind of lucky. Folks are used to seeing advertising and premium sports, so we do both, and we don't see any issues showing paying subscribers that are paying upwards of $160 for annual packages, 6 to 10 spots in an hour. So.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. I think that for us, it's really, if you look at kind of what the traditional cable model is, it's subscription revenues, but also with certain channels, you get rights to air commercials several minutes an hour. So there's the monetization of that, and again, as your subscriber base grows, that number sometimes can even grow beyond what the subscription revenues are. So it's kind of a hybrid model for us.
How long do you, and this is a quick one, but how long do you think it's going to take until the cable business actually really is forced to convert all the way over to being streaming? And are PlayStation and Roku simply the cable boxes of today, and really it's not that much of a disruption?
I'll take that one. I think one of the interesting things, if anyone knows what active video is, I'm sure you guys. I think the cable operators are going to find ways to. The broadband revenue has already increased, so you'll see some of their earnings are even better than they were last year. But active video and companies that have created platforms that are hooks into set-top boxes, you'll see more bundled packages to keep them for retention. So it's hard. I think there'll be different. A lot of these networks will look at both sides of the fence for, I think, a couple years till something significant happens. In HBO now, it's probably the first formidable product that is valued as a standalone that did really well. So.
Yeah, I have a little bit different of a perspective. I think that the cable industry as we know it, not everybody likes it. Some people actually dislike the way that it's structured, but it's a very big market. It's got a huge base and a lot of revenues flowing through it. The other problem, and if you look at what's happened with Sling TV, they've put a cap on themselves of 2 million subscribers for their new product, just to kind of make sure everybody's comfortable that they're not going to let that kind of outpace their regular subscribers. And the reason is because there's a lot of money invested in infrastructure that they have to maintain, and the average revenue per user is a lot higher with the current model than it is in the new model. So if they were to migrate everybody over to a $20 a month package versus a $100 a month package, that's not very good for their shareholders. So I think in the long term, if you go back to whenever there wasn't satellite, now it's roughly a third of the market. I don't know what OTT eventually will become, but I think all three, cable, satellite, and OTT, are going to coexist for a long period of time. I don't think cable and satellite are just going to go away. I think they're here just because there's too much money in the companies that control that, kind of similar to a la carte. I don't see a la carte TV coming as we all want it, simply because there's just too much money in the way it is structured today.
Yeah, I think this is kind of the $64 million question. HBO Now is a great example, but if you follow cable, that was an a la carte channel to begin with, so it was very easy for them to get the green light to move forward with a product like that. If you understand content at all and you see, the best production companies in the world are in the United States, and that's because the cable model, which we're here to disrupt it to some degree, but I heavily believe that the bundle is the best thing that any user can get. Everyone is under the notion that they only watch 5 channels. But realistically, if you look at it, when there's a natural disaster or a war, you end up going to CNN, which you might not watch often. If there's a hurricane in Miami, you're going to check out Weather Channel, whether it's once a month or twice a month. We actually use a lot more channels than we want to believe. And there's no possible way that a la carte packaging is going to be a better consumer offering than what cable can offer. The question is, how does it get bundled over OTT? I think that's where the big question is. But bundling is here to stay. It makes a lot of sense for everybody that's in the game, both on the content side as well as on the platform side. And companies like our goal essentially is to provide networks more money and at the same time charge consumers less. That's where we feel the disruption can be. And there's no reason why someone who produces great content, because great content is very expensive to produce. You could produce hundreds of pilots and only one is a hit. It's going to be an interesting marketplace. Things are changing very quickly. But like I said, the bundle is probably here to stay.
And are there any questions from the audience right now on anything that we've been doing? Yeah.
So on the bundle note, so I'm from Scripps Networks, just full disclosure. So,
Dun dun dun.
But on the bundle, do you
So was
see
I, so was I.
do you guys see eventually an OTT bundle not from linear television, but right, it's at the point right now where I'm paying $5 a month for Qello, $10 a month for WWE, Hulu. At some point, and I have to manage all of those. At some point, does someone come in as a, do you guys see, or would you be open to, for the folks on there, a clearinghouse or a one-stop shop that, when I change my credit card, I don't have to go to 7 or 12 different places to pay for everything.
And an add-on to that, how do you price point then accordingly?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's, I would welcome that, because then I would be able to talk to some of the cable and satellite companies about licensing our technology. But I think that it goes back to the content owners, right? If they're going out and they're trying to market directly to their customer, and you can talk to the World Wrestling Federation here about it, they're going to have one price point. But once they then put themselves into the traditional distribution model, it's a much lower per sub fee per month, because they're getting a lot more eyeballs. So I think what you would have to figure out at that point, would be, I don't know if it would be a hybrid model between the two, but it's not going to obviously be what they're charging per month independently, and it might not be as low as what they're, well, they might not be doing it per sub per month, and might have to be something in between.
It's very interesting. If you look at the history of television, we started out with general entertainment networks, 3, and then Fox joined, and then when cable started, you started getting verticalized content, CNN, HGTV 1985, Food Network, women's networks, sports networks, and you see this type of verticalization. We are from, we see the skinny bundle from Sling. We actually believe that you're going to see vertical bundles. That's the future of it. So if I'm a passionate 45-plus lifestyle, user or watcher, viewer, then I probably want HCTV, Food Network, maybe Bravo, because they've got a bunch of shows. So, or if it's a sports bundle, then you get ESPN and Fox Sports and all of these other channels that are kind of fit your personal lifestyle. I think that's what the future holds. And the reason why that is very realistic is because earlier you mentioned that, there can't be a world where you have dozens of apps, right? If you have one app that's aggregating everything, knows, allows you to personalize that content, knows exactly what to show you, enables a discovery engine for you, provides you with programming guides, provides you with the experience that you want and you need. And that, I think, is the future, and I think it's going to take a couple of years before the TV boys or girls, figure out that it's not a bad thing, and they just need to repackage the way they've been packaging their cable bundles. And Fox is a great example. I think they bundle in like $9 or $10 for 10 channels, and it's very tough to work with companies like ours or other companies that are out there, because how do you unbundle something when you're getting $1 billion from Comcast? How do you pull a channel out without making a lot of people angry? And I think this is going to take a couple years to clear up. And when we do, we're going to have great television experience.
Yeah, just one more thing on that. I agree with what he's saying, but if you look at, I think Verizon just came out with their vertical bundles just the other day. Yeah, they're announcing it, but you have to buy the basic bundle, and that's $35. And I think the bundles are $10 a piece, and you have to buy 2. So you're already at $55. So I think with the vertical, there's going to be a minimum, because you have companies that own, just like Scripps, several networks, and they want you to take them all, not just one. And I think if you go to the bigger ones, Viacoms of the world and the NBCs, they have a lot more channels, and they expect a lot more of those to be in that basic package that everybody gets. So that's, going back to where the money is. Unfortunately, if you take one, sometimes you have to take 6 or 7. And you might not want the channel, but you're going to have to pay for it.
Yeah, I actually have a theory about the fact that the smart TV apps was the first step that cable took in cannibalizing their own business. because they're playing into this a la carte model, and eventually they're going to have to unravel their bundles and price point for the internet because they've already played into consumer behavior. And what David said, it's going to be a matter of time before they all start to do a Survivor's Island. So I thought it would have been smarter for the cable companies to say, okay, we're Scripps, like rather than making an A&E app and a this app and a that app, and or going across the board and doing all of our, Food Network and HGTV and all of them broken out, just do one new parent app and have all of that content streamed and bundled up under there, so that they're going to one place and still price pointing against that bundle, if you will, or doing it by demographic and by interest and category. But any other questions here on the group? So my next question is about content everywhere. So should content be everywhere? And if so, how do you approach the licensing around that? How do you approach the monetization around that? Or is it more strategic to have it have some walled access to a degree?
I'll start.
Whoever.
I mean, we're a little different than any of the leagues. I think the leagues put up sort of that protection wall. We became the #1 sports channel on YouTube for a reason, because we believe in sort of user-generated content and the ability to share and like and kind of promote our content. And that's empowered us to become who we are and how big we are. So we're all about sort of that letting it all out to everyone as much as possible. Obviously, we own the rights, but we just don't put up those same similar rights that an NFL or NBA or MLB does, and that enables us to really enhance that growth model.
We're actually in kind of a unique situation where all the labels, we make up pretty much 90% of their SVOD revenue, and their download to own is just plummeting. So now they're windowing where they normally would get a lot of money for a DVD advance or even worldwide broadcast. We're making up that SVOD revenue, so windowing is now, they're launching with us first. And hopefully that will continue, because there aren't a lot of other players or distribution outlets for our type of content. So I think they're a little more amenable to looking at streaming first, or doing it all together for the kind of the amplification you get of multiple platforms, both traditional and streaming at once. So.
And I think with a name like WhereverTV, you probably know what I would like to do. The problem that we have is some of the, especially in the United States, a lot of the content on certain channels is already licensed in other countries. And in those situations, even if we wanted to broadcast in other countries, we wouldn't be able to, even if we wanted to have those rights and were willing to pay for them, because those programs, for example, on E!, the Kardashian shows are licensed in I don't know how many countries now. So there is an international version of that channel, and hypothetically, if we had this U.S. service launched with somebody that was able to watch E! outside the U.S., it would have to be that international channel. So it kind of is predicated on what the content owners will allow you to do. And a lot of them, unfortunately, today in the U.S. Versus internationally, they don't really care, except in their own country. But the U.S. is pretty stringent when it comes to content outside the U.S.
Fremantle has done an interesting deal with Netflix, where they did just an initial global distribution deal, right? Netflix is kind of putting hubs down across the world, and then instead of doing territorial licensing deals, they're just doing a global deal, and they'll day and date release that. Do you guys think that's ultimately the future, or do you think that's something that Netflix has a very specific positioning and it's going to take a while for everybody else to catch up?
Netflix is in such a unique position, it's kind of hard to discuss in the same kind of atmosphere with them. But I think for us, if you're in a niche category, you can get worldwide rights because there's just no other distribution outlets for that. And also Netflix wants to cream 1% of 1%. So I think there's a really nice kind of middle layer of premium content that has some past addressable market from exploitation, if traditional or other or physical sales. So I think players like us can really look at that middle market and do well in it. So,
any other thoughts?
For us, we're in 177 countries for OTC or for direct-to-consumer content. So we don't really have an issue right now with regards to rights or moving it internationally in any way. It's a big part of our business, and it's only growing.
And do you do that all at the same, I mean, obviously
Slowly.
It sounds like the same window, or are you guys doing that kind of staggered out in different markets?
Staggered out over time.
Great. Any last question? Anybody? Okay, cool. We got the buzzer. Thank you.
Great.
Thanks,
Thank you.
guys.